Hare Krishna. Om Ajnanatirmirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahiyam Dadati Swapadantikam Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyaiva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivashadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Did everyone get a chance to say Hare Krishna?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So I'm very happy to be here. And I hope you're happy to see me here.
Haribol.
Thank you. So, this program is obviously, it has been arranged so that we can have some spiritual understanding and orientation. And which would also state that all of you are interested in spiritual subject matters. Some of you have been practicing spirituality for many years. Some of you may be sincere enthusiasts. You may be inquirers wanting to understand philosophy. So I wanted to begin by just stating briefly what Krishna consciousness is about. Because the program that we are having today is to understand in detail the idea of or the conception of service to God as explained by the Gaudiya Vaishnava theology. Gaudiya Vaishnavism is an ancient way of thought, philosophical thought and life. The essence of Gaudiya Vaishnavism is service to the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna and his devotees. In the recent times, this philosophy was made available to all sections of society on this planet by a very famous saint, His Divine Grace, Abhay Charanarvind Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada was born in 1896 in a middle class family in Bengal, India. He grew up to be an exceptional student of science, literature, and especially law. As a young man, he was attracted to the movement for he was attracted to the independence movement in India. India became independent from the British rule in 1947. In 1922, he had a life-changing experience when he met Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, from whom he later on took initiation. He became his disciple, formally became his disciple in 1933. And he felt that not only is it essential for the people of India to experience freedom, experience the right to expression, thought, speech in their own country, but he realized that freedom from another perspective is also freedom from the cycle of birth and death. And hence, along with his contributions, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you for coming. So along with this understanding that there is one independence where one can have access to the resources of the country where you're born, he also deeply felt moved, or he understood that on another level there has to be freedom from the oppressions of material nature, namely in terms of birth, old age, disease, death. So he contributed, or he gave his contributions to both these lines of thought. As a young man was fighting, or who wanted to be a part of the independence movement in India, he played his part. He accepted the movement of Swadeshi and the boycott of certain essential commodities that were not manufactured in India. So that was what he did that. And then he played a larger part in helping people realize, or he played a larger part in helping people understand his own realizations of how one can become free from the cycle of birth and death. And this attempt of his was so impactful that practically the understanding of Krishna conscious philosophy spread all over the world. Srila Prabhupada disappeared in 1977 after having established more than 100 temples. So many places, farm communities, devotee communities. He wrote hundreds of books, especially his monumental work on Srimad Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Upanishads. And he continues to inspire hundreds of people, practically thousands of them, generation after generation. During his stay on this planet many a times, people were confused as to what did he want to give them, what did he have to offer. So they would ask him that, what is it that you want to offer to us? And once when he was in England, a reporter asked him that, Swamiji, why have you come to England? And Srila Prabhupada had this very amazing sense of humor and comic timing, but it was always very intellectual and philosophical. So why did you come here? And he said, for hundreds of years, couple of 100 years, the British ruled over India. That's a small island called Great Britain or England. It ruled over this massive country, almost 200 plus years. And anything that was of importance or of any worth in India, they systematically took control of it and they brought it to London. And this they did for almost 200 plus years. So practically, anything worthwhile had already been brought to London. And this is, he's speaking to a reporter in England who's English, who's British. So if we could have captured that moment on camera, that would have been interesting. He said the British, they took away so many valuable items from India and they brought it to London. Practically most of it, all of it, except one. They forgot to bring it to London. Therefore, I have come to give them that. The chanting of the holy names of Krishna. This is what they forgot. A very valuable jewel gift. And that is why I have come here to give Krishna consciousness. The most important of all valuable things. When I was a young student studying in India, I met the ISKCON devotees somewhere on a campus, college campus. And a very interesting interaction that I had with them is what I want to share. So I was a little proud of who I was, and like a typical materialist, I felt that these devotees are good for nothing. If you come to India, you may still be very fortunate to find this idea surviving that spiritual life is meant for those who are good for nothings. And one has to be extremely fortunate to be able to share in that idea. And this wasn't the thinking process in the Indian subcontinent till they were subdued for thousands of years by other cultures and races, which not only established their authority but took away the very essence of their belief. Today, even in 2019, there's a large section of the Indian population that still finds it difficult to accept that spirituality is important. They feel that materialism is all that is important in life. And if there is any spiritual endeavor that should just be spicing up their materialistic viewpoint, it should just be helping them achieve their material goals. Now this is in India, which has been the storehouse of wisdom since the dawn of civilization. So what would be the condition of the entire world, the entire planet then? There is so much ignorance of the need to be spiritually vibrant now in the present. There's no craving for that. As there is craving for satisfying one's senses, the craving for understanding our spiritual senses and satisfying them is very weak. But this is the nature of the times of today. According to the ancient Vedic texts, the present era is known as Kali Yuga. Basically, it means that this is the worst time to be existing. And the only good takeaway from this present era is if one can focus on serving the Supreme Lord through sincere, dedicated, and honest chanting of the holy names, then one could have a free ticket out of this entire material realm, a free ticket. All one has to do is just some honest, dedicated and sincere practice of chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So I was proud. So when I did meet the devotees, I asked them, can you convince me that what you are trying to sell to me is worth it? So rather than give me a philosophical answer, they told me a story. Once upon a time, a gentleman was walking down the street at night. It was dark, and the darkness was interspersed with some light from the street lights. So there would be a small area of brightness wherever the street light was falling, and then beyond that perimeter it would be intensely dark. Under one street light, the gentleman saw a man who was in deep anxiety, frantically searching for something that it appeared that he must have dropped onto the ground. Seeing another person in distress, he approached this man and he asked him, "Sir, have you lost something?" And the man said, "Yes, I've lost the key to my apartment. So now, unless until I find the key, I won't be able to open the door to my apartment. I won't be able to enter my apartment. Let me help you," said the man. So the two of them started searching that area. They couldn't find the key. So he asked the gentleman who had lost the key to the apartment, he asked him, "Did you lose your key here?" The gentleman said, "No." "So where did you lose your key?" "In the darkness there." "Why are you searching here?" "Because there's light here." So I was amused too. I completely forgot that I was supposed to be proud and vain, and I was supposed to look down upon them. I felt that, hey, they have a nice story to tell. But the conclusion of that story hit me. I did not reach the conclusion by myself. I needed their help. So they told me, similarly, "You young man, you're looking for happiness in this world. And since you are completely enamored by this bright presentation of materialism, you're searching for your happiness right there. That's not where your happiness is. The key to happiness is in the darkness, is in those subject matters that you're not exploring. Would you want to explore?" I was like, "Yeah, I always wanted to be an explorer." So they gave me the book to explore, the Bhagavad Gita. It has been a wonderful journey since then. That is where I understood that life, especially human form of life, is meant to educate oneself, to work hard so that we are able to serve. Every other species of life, their actions are simply dictated by their needs. And thus, every other species is very self-centered in the way they live. Only as humans, we have the capacity to be selfless. Only as humans can we explore our potential to serve. This is what I learned. But human form of life, especially in today's times, is so short. Balavastha kridasakta, tarunyavastha tarunasakta, vriddhavastha chintasakta. Childhood, early adulthood simply goes in seeking for the objects of enjoyment that will satisfy the senses. Youth is spent in trying to understand why there is attraction between the genders. And old age simply is lost in the anxiety of well-being. So life is so short, and already there is the default setting that one could let a life simply meander through these goals that have been set by material nature. Or we could be humans. Let ourselves be educated in the conception of service, and once we have had some training, then actually practically rendering service, and through those experiences fine-tuning ourselves to the platform, to that level of existence where it is pure selfless service. We only speak of high ideals. This ideal that is there would be acceptable to any intellectual person. The conception of service as a human. So training ourselves and fine-tuning ourselves every single day makes us really realize our potential as a human being and relish our potential as a human being. In my readings of the Bhagavad Gita, I understood that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, He exists at different levels of realization. Vadanti tat tattvavidas tattum yach jnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagwaniti shadyate. The Supreme Lord is existing everywhere, accessible in the form of His energy to each and every living entity, sustaining all forms of life and matter as Brahman. And although the conception of Brahman has an impersonal aspect to it, the Supreme Lord also has a personal existence in the form of Paramatma, where He is one's personal friend, philosopher and guide as the Lord in the heart. Throughout our journey as a spiritual seeker, this personal aspect of the Supreme Lord is reciprocating every moment. Not just guiding us and inspiring us, but helping us whenever we fall, whenever we feel defeated, He helps us get up. That is the Super Soul. Hence the Super Soul is also referred to as a Chaitya Guru, the spiritual master in the heart. And when the journey is over, and if we have successfully lived the human form of life, we have had so many deep experiences of rendering service. When we come to the level of existence where there is uninterrupted service, then this frail body that is so very needed and valuable to us now but is so limited in its abilities, finally blesses us by leaving us alone and says, this body, the body that we have, finally tells us, now you can continue your journey without me. I was just a medium to help you. That is liberation. And in that state of liberation, one sees the beautiful personality of Godhead Krishna, Bhagavan, full of all opulences, full of all relationships. The complete abode of all the objectives that an individual soul or unlimited souls are seeking for. Krishna, Rasaraj, or the reservoir of all pleasure. That is Bhagavan. So personal, has such an individual connection with every living entity that every single soul feels completely happy and fulfilled in one's relationship with Bhagavan, Shri Krishna. The Supreme Lord, time and again, appears in this material world to jumpstart our journey. Because of having passed so many lifetimes in this material world, our ability to start our engines, to fire those engines, the crankshaft has given up. So we need some external source to jumpstart ourselves. That is when the Lord appears in this world as avatar. And in Kali Yuga, one of those incarnations that helps us, he rejuvenates the process which somehow, because of our own weakness of heart, we are not able to hold on to. He rejuvenates that, he revitalizes it as an avatar when he descends. And in this age, he descends as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the golden avatar. You see, I spoke of this present age as Kali Yuga. There are three other ages, which are referred to as better ages than Kali Yuga. Dwapar Yuga, Treta Yuga, and Satya Yuga. In these three ages, gold wasn't sought after as much as it is in the age of Kali. In those ages, there weren't many gold diggers. But Kali Yuga, there's a lot of excitement about gold. It seems interesting that the incarnation in Kali is also the golden avatar. Seems to be very apt and appropriate. Sango Parshad is how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or his presence has been described. Krishna Varnam Tushar Krishnam Sango Pangas Saparshadam. So Sa Anga Parshadam. Sango Parshadam. In all the other incarnations, the glory of Krishna is so great that he simply stands out. Whether it is his incarnation as Narsimhadev, his incarnation as Vamanadev, his incarnation as Lord Krishna, he is like the brilliant sun. He stands out. However, his incarnation of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a little different. In this incarnation, his devotees also stand out. They are so very noticeable. It's as if that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is like a beautiful moon and all the devotees are like luminaries. Today is the appearance day of one particular devotee, follower, and associate of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Is the disappearance day. Srila Srivas Thakur. Srila Srivas Thakur disappeared on the 10th day of the waning moon in the month of Ashad. Ashad is one of the months according to the zodiac calendar, the Vaishnav zodiac calendar or the Hindu zodiac calendar, the Pancham. There are many calendars that are followed by the Hindus. Vaishnavas, and especially Gaudiya Vaishnavas, we have the Gauranga Panchang. It is also called as a Gaurabdha calendar. Gaurabdha, which begins from the time that Lord Chaitanya appeared or was born. So according to the Gaurabdha calendar, Srivas Thakur disappeared on the Dashami, the 10th day, or Krishna Dashami, the 10th day of the waning moon, in the month of Vamana Mas. However, in this particular month of Ashad or Vamana, the Vamana Mas, the followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they also celebrate the appearance day of another devotee. This falls on the 5th day of the waning moon in the month of Ashad, or Krishna Panchami, like 5 days before, prior to today. So I will briefly speak about this particular devotee. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared as a glorious son of Jagannath Mishra, his father, and Sachi Devi, his mother. He had an elder brother, Vishwarup. His elder brother, Vishwarup. When he was about 5 years old, his father passed away. So his mother took care of him. And before his father passing away, his brother, who was then 13 years old, had taken to the life of renunciation as a sannyasi. So his mother raised him up practically all by herself. This is about 500 years ago. India as a society was very conservative. And his mother was, because she had lost her husband, so she had to follow the norms of society in those days, which means that she had to remain unmarried. She couldn't marry again. She had to live her life as a widow. So from about when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was 6 years of age through 10 years, her entire life revolved around her son. And she gave him such wonderful training. She was always there for him. At 16, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had become, he was then called as Nimai. He had become an accomplished scholar. And all the math and science expos, he had already gotten certificates and medals at that. Very accomplished scholar. So much so that one of the world-renowned scholars of those times, Keshav Kashmiri, he felt that he had to debate with Nimai and defeat him. And this is just a 16-year-old boy. Keshav Kashmiri had traveled the world. He was a middle-aged gentleman. She felt it was imperative that he challenge him to a debate. And at 16 years of age, around 16 or 17 years of age, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nimai, not only was considered to be one of the greatest scholars of all times, but he actually defeated the Pandit, the scholar who had defeated all the other scholars in all the four directions, Digvijay Pandit. And interestingly, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not even post it on social media. His followers, they were so eager, like, can we put it up on Facebook, Instagram? And all the young boy felt was a feeling of brotherhood or not really compassion, but just empathy. He had this empathy for the scholar, Keshav Kashmiri. And he told Keshav Kashmiri that, sir, I think that we should continue this debate on another day, because today you appear to be so very tired. That was the end of the discussion. Therefore, we don't find any reference on social media. Because that very night, the goddess of learning, who was the personal mascot of this Pandit, Saraswati Devi, she had specifically showered her blessings on this Pandit. She appeared in a dream, which seemed very real to him. He was in a live dream, just as we are on Facebook Live, I guess. So Saraswati Devi was Facebook Live with him, a live dream. She informed him that the person who defeated you is my master. So don't feel so dejected. Take shelter of him. So next day, Keshav Kashmiri went up and took shelter of Nimai Pandit. And Nimai Pandit felt embarrassed and he said, please don't do that. Please, Krishna has blessed you, Mother Saraswati has blessed you. Now you can go on with your devotional service. Then Mother Sachi, when she heard that Nimai had gotten so many accolades, he was triumphant, she felt that he should be married now. So she kind of found an eligible girl, Rohini Priya. There was a wonderful marriage ceremony. After marriage, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu felt that now he is a responsible householder. Till now he had been a freelancer, a freelance scholar. Now I felt that as a freelance scholar, all he needed was just a toll, just a space where he could teach his students. That is all. He wasn't concerned about opening up an institute. In fact, he had subleased, or his own teacher Gangadas Pandit had subleased him a space within his own school and asked him to start his Pathshala, his Tola, his school. After marriage, he felt that he needed to have a house, he needed some bank balance, so he needed to earn money. Navadvip wasn't the place. Navadvip was where he was born, where he grew up, where he became famous as a scholar. So it was not the place where he could earn money, because in Navadvip he had gotten the reputation of being a teacher who taught for free. So now he had to travel out of Navadvip. So he decided to go to another place which was the center of learning, another very vibrant center, university town, Gaya. There he met Ishwar Puri Maharaj. Actually, he went to Gaya twice, so I'm mixing up the two stories to cut it short. So he met Ishwar Puri Maharaj in Gaya the second time. He was in Gaya for similar reasons, and also he wanted to perform certain duties towards his departed father, so he was in Gaya. He met Ishwar Puri Maharaj and he came back a changed person. The famous Nimai Pandit now would always shed tears in separation from Krishna, and he would beg the devotees of Navadvip to help him find Krishna. This was the birth of Gauranga Mahaprabhu, in one sense. As Nimai Pandit, his pastimes were over now, and now begins his pastimes as Gauranga Mahaprabhu. And in this avatar, in this new phase of life, he inaugurated the Sankirtan movement. He told the devotees, bring mridangas, bring kartals, and let us do Sankirtan throughout the night. So what do they do during the day? Sleep? No sleep. During the day you work hard, and in the evenings you do Sankirtan. So practically all of them became yogis. For one entire year. During the day they spent their time earning their livelihood, and as soon as the sun set after dark, they performed all night kirtan for 1 year. Aren't we happy we were not there at that point of time? I mean, here after one night of Sankirtan we take 2 days of good rest. But it is alright, because we can all blame it on Kali Yuga and seek mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, feeling ourselves fallen and unqualified. So he began Sankirtan, and he would have so many people participate in Sankirtan at night. He would have this Sankirtan in the courtyard of Srivas Thakur, but behind closed doors. It was a walled courtyard. So within the walls they would have all night kirtan. One particular evening, a very close associate of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was an exceptional dancer. He was watching Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu do kirtan, sing. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu glanced at him in inviting him to dance. And when that dance began and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Gauranga Mahaprabhu was singing the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, everything stood still. The people forgot to breathe. They became statues. An entire night passed. Nobody moved. 8 hours of straight non-stop kirtan, 10 hours. The sun rose. Generally, when the sun would rise after a night of kirtan, the devotees would feel a little angry at the sun. Their eyes would turn red. They would look at the sun as if they wanted to burn the sun, burn down the sun with hot, cold eyes. But this particular day, when the sun rose, nobody noticed the sun rising. They were so engrossed in the dance. And Gauranga Mahaprabhu kept singing. The only person who realized that the kirtan is coming to an end for him is the sun god. Because as the sun god set, the kirtan was still going on. And the dance was still going on. Another night of kirtan and dancing, which continued on to the next day, the second day of kirtan and dancing. Another night of kirtan and dancing, and the next day of kirtan and dancing, that's almost 72 hours. For 24 praharas, 72 hours, this devotee was dancing. And finally, when the sun rose on the third, or the sun set on the third day, he fell at the feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and said, "My dear Lord, I beg you, please give me 10,000 Gandharvas." Gandharvas are exceptional singers. He said, "Please give me 10,000 Gandharvas who can sing constantly, continuously without stopping, so that I can go on dancing and dancing and dancing." Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was so pleased with him. He said, "I am like a bird. You are like my wing. I have only one wing. If I had another wing, then I could fly in the sky. Into the unlimited sky, I could fly forever. You are so blessed, O Vakreshwar Pandit." So Krishna Panchami of the month of Vamana is the appearance day of Vakreshwar Pandit. And whenever Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would do kirtan, he would always be there to dance for him. When he went to Jagannath Puri, when Gauranga Mahaprabhu took sannyas and went to Jagannath Puri, Vakreshwar went with him. When he lived in the Gambhira, Vakreshwar Pandit also lived in the Gambhira in another room, which later on in today, the place, the room where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would live in the house of Kashi Mishra is celebrated as Gambhira, the deep, sober, intense place. Gambhira means that. And the house of Kashi Mishra, one section of it is now the Radhakant Mat, which was established by Vakreshwar Pandit because he lived there and his disciples. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was taking his first trip to Vrindavan and he stopped at Ramakeli, Vakreshwar was with him. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would dance in the Rath Yatra festival, he appointed Vakreshwar Pandit as the chief dancer of one of the 7 groups that would perform kirtan for Lord Jagannath's pleasure. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spoke about Vakreshwar Pandit with a lot of affection. He told another personality of the name Devananda Pandit. He said, Vakreshwar Pandit is the very abode of Krishna. I have seen him. I know him. Krishna personally stays wherever Vakreshwar Pandit is there. And whenever Krishna wants to dance, he makes Vakreshwar dance. Whoever serves Vakreshwar Pandit is very dear to me. And you, O Devananda Pandit, because you have served Vakreshwar and received his blessings, therefore you have become very dear to me too. So Krishna consciousness is a very simple process, especially as Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Gaudiya Vaishnavas basically means, Gaudiya means those who follow Gauranga Mahaprabhu. The followers of Gauranga Mahaprabhu, the incarnation for this age of Kali. So as Gaudiya Vaishnavas, spiritual practice, the spiritual practice that Gaudiya Vaishnavas adopt is a very simple process. We chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, we dance in Kirtan, we take some prasad. And just to keep us focused on these activities, just to keep our minds focused and prevented from being distracted by the illusions of this material world, we occasionally hear some philosophy. So it is a fun-filled process, a lifetime of fun, if we do it the right way. Otherwise it could be a very stressful process too. If we take an early exit from the freeway of Krishna consciousness, then it becomes a little complicated. Otherwise it's a very simple process. Chanting the holy names of Krishna, serving the devotees of Krishna, and eating Krishna Prasad, honoring Krishna Prasad, and hearing some philosophy. So I'll stop here, 7:30. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Any questions or comments, corrections or reflections? Lakshmi Moni Mataji, would you like to say something?
No. I knew you were talking about the Krishna Pandit.
Thank you so much.
It was really nice.
Thank you.
You didn't talk about Shilas.
Would you like to talk about Shrilas? Maybe a few sentences. Thank you. Any questions?
We started saying with the idea of service.
Hmm.
So we, of course, we emphasized because human life actually means one of service. So there is a difference between animal life and human life. Can you elaborate what the service actually means to human beings? Why should they do it? What does it mean? I mean, you said that is the way it should be, but also there is something more to it. There's emphasis put on that. There must be something more to it. What is that?
Can you repeat the question?
The question is being asked that we did mention during our presentation that in the human form of life, a human being has this potential of rendering service. In the other species of life, the other species are motivated just by their needs, their bodily needs. But in human form of life, we can also access the realm of service, especially selfless service. So, could we elaborate on what is this service, what is this potential that humans have? Is that right?
Yes, and also why we should do that. I mean, it's good to do that.
And also, how is it?
Something
How is it good to do that? What is significant about rendering service? Since you have more experience of doing that, many more years of rendering service, we would like to hear from you. And I think your answer is going to be very enlightening. So please, the mic.
My thing is actually
Yes, here's the mic.
The reason is mine is not complete. I have only some idea. So
Please.
maybe if you
Please share.
elaborate, maybe I could
Please share.
be satisfied with your answer. Because mine is incomplete.
You have more, as I said, more years of service. So whatever you can.
The reason only I started doing it is because it is said that is the true nature in the spiritual sense. I was very impressed by the way dharma is defined. Dharma is a very interesting concept. It is, of course, the Sanskrit term has many different meanings. They're all correct. Dharma sometimes is said as to be duty. In some part of the country, dharma actually means charity. So there are different meanings of that. But I was, although I accepted them, but when I came across the term dharma, but it is said that is something very intrinsic, that is the inherent nature of something. Like Prabhupada gives the example, dharma of water, it means liquidity, which is the dharma of fire means light and heat. So that is inherent. If there's no you don't feel light and heat, and the coal may be there. There's a potential to be fire, but it's still not fire. We call it only coal. So in the same way, I understood that the dharma of the individual being as a spirit soul is one of service. But then what is its significance?
Thank you very much for. I'm not sure if there's anything more to add. Significance, okay. Yes, so there is certain nature that a soul has, which is called its nature, so swadharma. And everything else, charity, honesty, duties, or following norms, etiquette, which also sometimes is called as dharma, or norms and rules that govern your behavior, or how society and community should exist. Those are all called as tatkalik dharma. Only for that particular situation, it is the principle that helps things function. And they're important, so because let's say it's the monsoon season, like in India there's a monsoon season, then an umbrella has a function to perform. So having an umbrella it's an important principle, or a raincoat to protect yourself. So that can be considered to be the dharma of that moment. Just giving a very, very random example. So those are all tatkalik, according to time, place and circumstance. But Swadharma in every situation it eternally exists. This dharma in all species of life, there are 84 species of life. This Swadharma in all species of life is that one has to be active. One cannot be inert. One has to be active, which means there has to be action, which means there has to be some activity. This activity is expressed in the form of service. That is the nature of the soul. Because it is alive, it is a living principle, the soul renders service. And it is the same with the Supreme Soul too, because the Supreme Soul is also soul. The nature of soul, life, is activity. It cannot be inert, it cannot be void. When service is rendered for just one's own intent, Srila Prabhupada says that either we can serve our senses, which basically means this is mine and I need this. My hands, they need to pick up the food and put it into the mouth. So here one is serving one's senses. It's very selfish, very self-centered. And this conception where one is trying to serve one's senses is based on the idea that I am the center of the universe. I am that, all that matters. So every species of life would do that. Whether it is, let's say, a tigress that is trying to take care of her cubs, feeding them. It seems that she's feeding her cubs, but what drives her to do that is her connection to her cubs. I'm a tigress. These are all my offsprings. They're connected to my body. So Srila Prabhupada describes that as the bodily conception of life, or he would sometimes call it as a skin disease. That which is connected to my senses is an extension of my senses, my life, is me too. In this kind of existence, which is a very basic state of existence, except for the 4 lakh species of humans, the rest of the 80 lakh species, they do not really have any other option. So in the human species, we have other options. So as humans, we have to be aware that we have other options than simply serving our own senses. Now, if we are going to serve somebody else, let's say just as a tigress serves her cubs, or a lioness does that, or a mother monkey does it for her children, or a father monkey does it for the family, whatever it is. There are certain species where the mother gives birth and it is the father that comes and takes care of the eggs, hatches it, and brings food for the offspring. So whatever it is, that which motivates them to serve someone else is the belief that this is an extension of me. Only humans naturally have the facility to think about others' needs, even if they have absolutely no bodily connection with them. For example, if you see somebody who needs help getting off the bus, you may not know them. Even a small child would want to extend its hand and help the person that needs help. So the human form of life, from even the bodily conception, even as a species, has been given this natural inclination to serve another without feeling the need that it has to satisfy me. That is not available for any other species of life. And this motivation or this impetus that is there, it is the ignition for, or it ignites a beautiful relationship known as love. For love to exist and to be understood, the principle of service has to be understood, and we have to realize that it is not self-abnegation. It is the belief that if I serve this object of my love, if I serve the beloved, I also naturally get satisfied, happy, fulfilled. And it is not just with the individual souls, it is with the Supreme Soul to Krishna. That is how we understand that Krishna loves to serve his devotees or reciprocate with his devotees. The difference is when Krishna does it, because his Vibhu is so huge, it seems that he is self-satisfied. And because we are minute, the perception is that we are dependent on him. The Vaishnava philosophy is that the soul is dependent on Krishna and Krishna is eternally connected to the soul. The relationship is reciprocal. So this is how in the human form is in that sense blessed than the other forms of life. Because in the human form, even if we do not have the training, there is a natural instinct to try and reach out to help another person or serve another person. If there is no bias, if there is no baggage, no preconceptions, then one naturally reaches out to help another. In the other species of life, unless until they are trained to do that, it may not be observed. A dog will be trained to do that, to serve its master. Humans also need training, but that training is needed to fine-tune the natural default setting that a human form of life has. I hope
In this answer,
someone else can add to that.
Just another.
But you'd like to add to it, Mataji?
I was thinking about the selfless aspect of
Yes.
service. Because when we talk about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Srivas Pandit
Could you give the mic?
the concept of service is our Swadharma, but when you focus on the selflessness of that service, you see the unique feature of the relationship between the devotee and other devotees, not only God, but the other devotees. We serve Krishna knowing that Krishna is pleased by us selflessly serving him and his other devotees. And you see that so much in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes, the absence of envy. Prahlad Maharaj says it's Svasti Astu Vasrasa Kalo Prasidata, that when let all envious people, let the envy go away by them engaging in bhakti yoga and serving each other, because then they'll think about each other's welfare. They won't think about their own welfare. And so then everything will be auspicious in the whole world. So this we see it so much in Shuddha Sangam. For instance, I was thinking of Jagai and Madhai, because after they got the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they passed out, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked them, the devotees, carry them in to my house, carry them into the house. So this kirtan had been so private, so, someone drinking milk can't come, mom, and who's hiding in the basket, she can't come. But here these people who had been so inimical to everybody were brought in to the sangha of devotees, and everyone was wishing their welfare. Everyone was wishing how fortunate they are. Let them get the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this selfless service is for me anyway, it seems like the quintessence of the difference between the pure Vaishnava and all other living entities who may have an inclination to help the person get off the train, but their idea isn't to give him everything he needs in order to be eternally happy. Whereas for the devotees, that desire to have all auspiciousness for every living entity is foremost in their mind.
Thank you so much. You had a question? Want to speak the question in the mic? Since we have the mic going around.
Just a quick question. So what's the best way to develop that original service attitude towards the Supreme, and how can we, what's the best process for all of us to develop that natural service attitude towards the spirit, the soul?
Why don't you give the answer to? Please. Yeah.
I'm asking. That's simple.
Your eyes, they speak so much. So you can give your understanding to that. Yeah. Please do that. And then, most probably, yes.
I want to hear from you, please. I don't know.
You know. Okay. So the answer was given by Lakshmimuni Mataji already. That is the process. And the present age is to serve the devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and to learn from them how they are trying to serve Krishna and how they are trying to serve other devotees. So we see them chanting Hare Krishna for personal purification, and also chanting Hare Krishna for the pleasure of the deities, for the pleasure of, for the occasions that, like the appearance and disappearance days, those occasions, festival days. So Sankirtan or Harinam Sankirtan and Japa. So the chanting of the holy names, following the four regulative principles, which helps one be focused, at least keeps one's body and mind in its purest state as far as possible, the four regulative principles. And being in the association of like-minded devotees, especially those who are very, very, very excited and enthusiastic about service. Sometimes I call them as advanced devotees. Basically, it means very enthusiastic for entering service. Many years ago, I met a devotee in Vrindavan, the Krishna Balaram temple in Vrindavan. How many of you have been to the Krishna Balaram temple in Vrindavan? Please raise up your hands. It's a beautiful place, isn't it? Please spend a little money and time to make a trip to Vrindavan, and especially Krishna Balaram temple. So this is where Srila Prabhupada, he established specifically Krishna and Balaram deities, Radha Shyam Sundar and Gauranitai, and his samadhi is also in Vrindavan. Srila Prabhupada's samadhi is also in Vrindavan. This a very elderly devotee distributing books. So many people visit the temple. So I was there and he offered me a book too. So I kind of, in my ignorant state of existence, I said, Prabhu, I'm already a devotee. So he said, well, these books are also for devotees. So I kind of did take a book. What it meant was that that day I could not have a rasgulla because the money for the rasgulla I had to offer to him. But then he told me a story. He was a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. So he told me a story of when Srila Prabhupada stayed on our land in Vrindavan, and they had constructed a room for him, and the temple was still being constructed. And Prabhupada wanted the temple to be constructed very soon, so it got constructed, and then Srila Prabhupada would come in for morning darshans. So, if let us suppose this is Krishna Balaram temple, so there would be a door on this side and another door on the other side into the temple hall, and in the back too. So Srila Prabhupada, at 7:15 we have the curtains open with the deities with new shringar for the day, new dresses for the day. So he would take darshan and then he would do parikrama. So he would get out of this door, the deities would be facing here towards us on that side, do parikrama. And 3 times he would go around the deities. So he would go out of the temple, go to the back of the temple, come back and enter the temple hall through that door. So after he would do parikrama, on the third, sometimes what he would do was after the third circle, he would go to his room. So he would be waiting at those, there were a couple of stairs that you walked down. And also when you would go to the room that was at the back of the temple, there were a couple of stairs that you had to walk up to go into that, on the ground floor. So you would either wait here, outside there at the stairs, or at the stairs leading to Prabhupada's house, his rooms, with a flower in his hand, a rose, a fresh rose every single day. Srila Prabhupada for you, Srila Prabhupada for you. It was the third or the fourth day, and Srila Prabhupada looked at him and said, "Why don't you do something practical?" Sorry?
There's more to that story.
Please can you tell me, because this is all he told me.
Yeah, because he wouldn't tell you the other part.
Right.
I know. He used to, we used to call him Prabhupada's Jai Man. Every time when Prabhupada would come in from his morning walk, that devotee would say, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada the Savior of the whole world, Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada, etc., 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 and give him a rose. And
Right.
so then Prabhupada said, "Why don't you do something practical?"
Thank you so much. Thank you for adding to that. He never told me that. he was so jovial, and he was like, he exuded.
Forever.
Yes.
Everybody.
And then he said that is when I took up distributing books. And every single day, this is what I do, just distribute books, because Prabhupada told me, why don't you do something practical? So enthusiastic devotees, advanced devotees. So that was very exciting, because it inspired me also to kind of do something practical in life. Is that all right?
I just want to say one thing. That Prabhupada was at an airport. Don't worry about the thing. I have a big mouth. Everybody. Prabhupada was at the airport once, and there were many, many devotees around him. He was sitting and speaking, and there were reporters there, and the devotees were all blissful. And then the reporter asked Prabhupada, "What's the difference between these people that are here, all smiling and chanting with you, and these other people who are walking in the airport?" And he said, "These people, they know they're devotees of Krishna, and these people, they haven't figured it out yet." So when we talk about devotees, we're talking about the whole world.
Yes.
Just they haven't figured it out yet.
Some haven't figured it out. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You remembered. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
First of all, I feel actually a bit unqualified, but there's only a reflection that I had, Guru Prasad Prabhu, in your question on the significance of service, and it's my personal personal reflection, and I ask for forgiveness that this reflection is wrong. There's a lot of senior devotees that, but this is what came to my heart. And I'm, first of all, an avid follower of watching the wildlife. And the reason I say this is because there was a concept that was explained, Prabhuji, where you said that if it's a service through the extension of skin, it's understandable. But I've seen many documentaries on dolphins helping other species in addition to man when they've been lost. So in that case, there is no direct extension of skin. But the reason I'm saying that is actually because I think we all, as living entity, as you say, Prabhuji, that our dharma is meant to serve, and we do that. Otherwise we would be inactive or inert, which is not a characteristic that we possess. So, irrespective of a human life or any other forms of life, due to our nature of our soul, we do serve. But then what is the significance of serving the Supreme? The significance, I feel, is that it is the one type of service that does not bind us to any form of karma. There's not binding, it's liberating. And it's the truest and purest form of service. Whereas any other service we do, there's always a binding factor. Either you will enjoy the benefit of that service, or you could do disservice. And for that you would accumulate bad karma. Whereas service to the Supreme, this is my personal reflection that I felt in my heart, is that when we serve the Supreme, and the significance, Prabhu, is that that service in its purest form is unbinding, it's liberating. So that is my reflection on the significance of service to the Supreme.
Wonderful reflection, thank you. Wonderful reflection. I'm sorry you have to run around so much.
Lecture. We talk so much about soul and relationship of soul to Krishna. Practically, what we can follow daily, or what we should tell ourselves daily, that we are not this body, but we are soul, and how should we act accordingly? Because during our interaction with devotees, with family, with friends, we are all mostly interacting on the human platform, or human bodily connections are there. But what should we say to ourselves daily before we chant, or especially before we chant, that we are eternal soul and our connection is with Krishna? So some practical, so that we feel that we are not this body, and we are eternal soul.
Thank you so much. Please. Practical. You spend so many entire lifetime. I believe that's important to address that. I know he's addressing it to me, but I'm addressing it to you. Please. Some practical service.
Very interesting. All these devotees are giving practical service every day, and they have put us in trouble. Asking us to explain. It's exactly what you've been doing. If you want to add to that a little bit more, of course, helping others to understand. As just now Brother Lakshmi mentioned, that everyone is actually a devotee. Right? So some people are already aware of it, others have to get to know about it. So I would say that helping those who are yet to get to know of it is also very practical service. Because once we all have this experience, and why are we doing it? We do find some taste in that service. If there is no taste, we won't be doing this. Who is willing to sacrifice their time, effort and resources into this endeavor, unless it is deeply satisfying. So any practical service will be accompanied by the deep satisfaction and fulfillment. So then you know we are doing practice. Thank you, Prabhu.
Very quick question.
It made me think a little bit more.
Thank you so much.
Can I ask a very quick question?
Is that okay?
Maybe you can add something more to it.
It was very striking when Prabhuji mentioned that, because I remember, growing up, when I was growing up, as soon as it was time to come home, I remembered I have a mom, I have a dad, they have certain norms. This is who I am here. So wanting to follow that, this is another form of service, practical thing. Immediately made me understand my identity. Let's say I take up I become an engine driver. So as soon as I enter the engine, a train engine, then I remember all that as an engine driver I have to perform. So I felt it was very striking what you said. If the engine driver is at home, doesn't remember that I am an engine driver. When I'm at play, I don't remember that my mom dad at home. As a child, I wouldn't remember that. Because at that time there was another identity. Friends, I'm a friend, they are my friends, so I need to enjoy it. So doing practical things, whatever is needed for that time. Whenever it is connected to the Supreme Lord, it makes us realize that we are the servants of Krishna. I hope that is what I got the realization.